Hey everybody, this is Jared with Heat Press Nation, and you are listening to the Customizing Culture podcast. Today we have a very special guest who's joining us virtually. It's very exciting. I already want to just tell her story, but of course we brought her on so she could tell her story. So without any further ado, please help me welcome Brooke Carnline. Brooke, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us here on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so for those people who may not know who you are just yet, why don't you give us the light version of yourself?
Okay, my name is Brooke Carnline. I'm otherwise known as Teach Over the Rainbow on all my social media accounts. That's kind of fluid through all of them. And I am a crafter, entrepreneur, business owner. So I wear a lot of hats. I wear all the hats currently right now for my business.
All the hats. And I think you're wearing a construction, you're like the contract, you're wearing the contractor hat, the construction project manager hat.
Yes, I'm the project manager hat right now because I'm currently in the process of the beginning stages of construction for a new building for my business on my property because I have outgrown my spaces in my house.
With those sentences, you just made every last listener extremely jealous. I just want you to know. So we're fighting an uphill battle from here to get everybody to like you. Everybody's just like, this girl. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So now, I absolutely love your story. I think it's very unique, very interesting. And you self-describe as a soldier. Well, first, it's soldier turned teacher turned business owner.
Yep.
Right? Did I get that right?
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't we talk about the soldier turned teacher part first? Is the soldier where this journey begins? What were you doing before that?
Well, I was in high school. I was a big athlete, played all the sports, and very independent. Right out of high school, got my own place. And originally, I wanted to go to school for graphic design, except I'm a little bit older. I'm 46. So when I was in high school, it wasn't required to take algebra. So when I wanted to go dip into college, they were like, oh, you didn't take an algebra class. You need to take your algebra class. And I was like, yeah, I don't like math. I'm not doing that. So I decided to take a long way around to getting to a degree. But in any case, I was working, and after about a year after high school, I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm just sitting around here doing nothing and just paying bills. And I have come from a big military family. My grandfather's a Marine. My uncle was in the Air Force. My brother's a Marine. We have two of my children are currently serving active duty, my two nephews. And so I was like, I'm just going to go into the Army. And I really didn't even tell a whole lot of people. My parents really didn't even know. They kind of found out after the fact. I was like, yeah, I went down to MIPS and I'm going to go into the Army and I'm going to be a combat medic. And they're like, okay. It wasn't really like a big shock to them because my brother was already a Marine. So they were supportive of it. So right out of high school, about a year out of high school, I went into the Army. I served in Germany for 2 years. I was overseas over there. And got out of the Army, and when I was stationed in Germany, I had my daughter in Germany, and it was her dad and I were both active duty. So when you have both parents that are active duty, you kind of have to decide, it's difficult when you have both parents active duty. So I decided to get out of the military and did various different entrepreneurial things and was successful at most of them, but more so I wanted to make sure that I was available for my children. So my mom was a teacher, and so my mom is an entrepreneur too. She had she was a cosmetologist. She had her business in our house growing up, and so she was always there. My parents were always there for everything growing up, so that was really important for me to be there for my kids. I didn't want to miss anything. I wanted to be there during the summers and the weekends. So teaching is not that I didn't want to do it. It was kind of my second choice because arts and graphics, and that was kind of my first choice. But going the teacher route made me available for my kids. So it's going from the military and then, having a very structured life and becoming a teacher was kind of like really kind of a natural thing for me because you kind of have to lead when you're in the military, regardless of what your rank is. You're always having to lead other people because there's always going to be people that are ranked below you. So kind of being a teacher was pretty easy for me because I was able to lead and stand in front of people and speak and, teach people things or teach students and other teachers as well.
What's harder, leading kids as a teacher or adults in the military?
Oh, it just depends. I didn't teach the littles, so I taught fourth grade. So if you're asking,
that's such a good age.
Yeah. So they were like, they're fun. You can joke and play with them, and they don't do a whole lot of crying, but they're not like like those preteens where they don't like you no matter what you do. So they're kind of like that great age where you can like joke and play with them. So if you had to ask me if I taught littles, the little ones, despite the fact that I have 3 of my own kids, everybody always says, I like my own kids, but when I deal with other people's toddlers, I'm like, ugh, like, I don't know what to do with those kids,
Yeah, I taught Sunday school for like a decade, and I did all ages and even did some youth group. So I've dealt with kids pretty much from like 5 to high school, right?
Yeah.
And fourth grade, that's a pretty solid group, man. That's if you ask me to volunteer today to teach it, I'll give me the fourth graders. Yeah. That's a great.
Well, the first couple of schools that I was at, they didn't have like pre-K and kinder. And so I really wasn't around teachers that had like really little ones. And then the last couple of schools that I went to, they had like kindergarten. And I just would stand in the hallway and just laugh because they'd be rolling down the hallway and acting like dinosaurs. And I'm like laughing at them. And the teachers are looking at me like, it's not funny. Don't laugh at them. I'm like, it is though.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So now for me, kind of looking in from the outside, teaching really does make sense for you because, I watch your channel, see your stuff on Instagram, and it's like, yeah, you have a very just clear way of explaining things, showing things off. So to me, outside perspective, it really does make sense that yes. Of course she was a teacher. Yeah, of course. Do you feel that like teaching helped prepare you in addition to your military experience? Do you feel like it helped prepare you for what you're doing now on social media and with your business?
Yeah, for sure. Especially because the amount of orders that I get, I have to have a very structured system. I have to be very organized. So that carries over from military to teaching to running my own business. So teaching is stressful, and so is owning a business, but it's a different kind of stress.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you're soldier turned teacher turned business owner. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the part that really just to me, I'm like, wow, like she did it. Can you talk to us about that transition period? Like what's going on in teaching and what's going on with your business and like, how did that switch? How did that period of transition happen?
Well, the first, I've been out of the classroom. This is my 3rd year out of the classroom. And I started my business in 2018. And the first couple of years that I was doing my business, I mostly focused on handmade polymer clay lanyards, and I still make those. But I did that full time for the first couple of years that I did my business before I stepped away from the classroom. And it was kind of funny because I when I look back at the first, items that I made, I'm like, ugh, why would anybody buy that? But I guess that's your stepping stone when you do anything. You look back and you're like, oh, that's so cringy, So, yep. So I did my lanyards for the first few years, and it got to the point where I was making 50, 100 of these, a certain style of lanyard, and I'd put them on my website and they'd sell out in 5 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I have something here. So, I did that for a few years while I was teaching. And when I got to the point where, it was the year before COVID that, it was the COVID, and then there was another year, and then I left after that. But that year of COVID, when I was teaching half a day from home, gave me a lot of time to, think about how can I expand my business? How can I grow my business? What can I do to increase sales? What can I do to increase social media? And so just that extra time at home gave me that opportunity to say, like this, I have something here. What can I do with this? And so that following year, I went to a new school and I was really not happy. And, there was lots of issues going on. There's a lot of issues that go along in the education system. And that's why to this day, I do what I can to support teachers and give back to my communities. But I was just not happy. I was not happy. And I kept telling my husband, like, I don't think I want to do this. I think I want to do my business. And he's like, okay, do it. And I'm just like, why are you so confident? Like the confidence in you, like, where does that come from? And it's not the confidence in him, it's the confidence that he sees in me. And sometimes you kind of doubt yourself a little bit. And when I got
it's good to have a cheerleader in your corner like
that. For sure.
Or like that support system. That's awesome, man.
Yeah. And so when I got to the point where I was kind of like doubling my teacher salary with my business, I was like, I probably can do this. And if I can't, I can always go back to the classroom. So the last year that I was teaching, I just really didn't have a very supportive admin. They weren't very they weren't supportive. And so I was like, you're making my choice really easy for me. And that's when I decided to step away.
Do you think that if it would have been a different situation, amazing admin, super supportive, great school, do you think that would have influenced your decision to not go full time?
It's very possible. It's very possible. It was like, the last, month or so of school, this particular school reaches out to the teachers and say, hey, where do you want to go next year? And they kind of give you like a wish list type of thing. And I was like, I'm really happy where I'm at. I like my grade level. I like the people that I work with. And she was like, okay. And so that was a Friday. And then I came in on Monday morning and it was basically like, I was kind of the first one there and, oh, good morning. And I was like, oh, good morning. She said, hey, I just wanted to let you know we're moving you to here, which is the exact opposite of what I asked for. And I was like, okay, well, I'm letting you know I'm not coming back. It was like, that was my rebuttal. Like, you just made my choice really easy for me. Teachers give so much and they do so much and they put so much of their own extra time into it. And so it's just really frustrating when you're not respected in your professional opinion, as if what you say just has no bearing on anything.
Doggone, man. Well, I'm going to say shout out to, if you're watching this and you're a teacher, man, shout out to all the 100%. Teachers, man. Yeah, that's a tough battle they're fighting out there.
Yeah.
So now, in the end, though, would you say that was kind of a blessing in disguise because it made the decision so easy for you?
Yes, absolutely. It was like, it was just that, like, I just needed somebody to go poop and push me over the edge. And I was like, thank you for making that decision easier for me.
Yeah, so between your husband and your admin, that you're just like, okay, that's it.
Yeah, and then I put my resignation in that day, and then I got home and was like, oh my God, what did I do?
Was there a little period of panic where it's like, oh man?
Yeah, 100%. Like, especially one of my favorite things to do is when you go back to school and you set up your classroom and you get everything all organized and you get the names and everything, and then I'm like, I was watching on social media, I'm like, man, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not setting up my classroom. So I kind of had like, FOMO there, like fear of missing out. Yeah. And then afterwards, when people are like, oh my gosh, blah, 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 my admin this, I'm like, I'm sorry, what?
FOMO healed.
Yeah, done.
So then that's really interesting. Like, I'm always fascinated by that point where you're on the diving board or you're on the edge of the cliff, you're in the door of the plane and you're ready to just jump out. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is probably one of the scariest points in life.
Yeah,
is to be at that crossroads. So I love hearing the stories of everybody, like how they came to their decisions and how they went to move on. What would you say to somebody who they're right there, they're at the crossroads, they're at the edge, they're ready to make that jump? what would you say to encourage them in making the right decision?
One of the things that I always tell myself, and I even told my students this, I had this in my classroom up on big words up on the wall, is dream big, set goals, and take action. And so
I love that.
When I decided to step away from my classroom, I'm like, I'm dreaming big. And I'm setting goals, and I'm going to take action. So it's funny because when I got my planner, probably about this time last year, and I wrote in my planner, like, these are the 5 or 6 things that I wanted to do. I'm a power lifter. I wanted to compete in regionals. I wanted to get...
Okay, I like how you just glossed over that so fast. We're going to come back to that. That's crazy.
Yeah, so...
Okay, sorry. So you're a power lifter. Keep going.
Yeah, I said I wanted to compete in regional powerlifting meet. I wanted to get X amount in sales. I wanted to... There was like four or 5 other things. And then one other thing was I want to build a building. And I was looking... It was so crazy because I was just looking at it the other day because I'm about to get my new planner. And I was like, wow, I did all of these. So it's like super exciting.
Okay, so let's go through that. I love it. Dream big, set goals. What's the third one?
Take action.
Take action. Okay, let's talk about your powerlifting for a second. And look, I get it. If you're watching, this has nothing to do with t-shirts or anything like that. But it's when you meet people and you hear their stories, hearing what else goes into their lives and makes them who they are.
For sure.
It really builds just a bigger picture. And I think it's just as valuable as knowing, oh, this is why she does t-shirts, or this is why she does tumblers, or, So if you don't mind, what the heck, powerlifting,
okay, so here's the deal. I've always been an athlete my whole life. I just stopped playing softball, like competitive softball, just like maybe like 4 years ago. And I'm 46. So I did it into my ripe old age of the 40s. But I've always been an athlete, and I had a knee reconstruction about 9 years ago, and it just set me back. Like, I couldn't do all the things, and it just... Being strong and being active is part of my identity. Like, oh, you need me to move that? I got you, no problem. Or you need, I just, like, that's just me. I've always been like that. Like, boot camp, when I was in the Army, I was like, this is fun. And people are like, I want to go home. I'm like, what are you talking about? This is fun.
I would have been one of those people.
No, I was like, this is fun. So being an athlete's always been kind of part of my identity. And after getting knee reconstruction, it kind of set me back a little bit. And then as I got into teaching, and teaching became more stressful, and I let it kind of take over my life and kind of lost myself in there, I gained a lot of weight. And at my highest, I was 207 pounds when I left teaching. And I was miserable. I had no confidence. And I've always used to be the person like, okay, like, you can't tell me anything. I know I'm it. And I just wasn't that person anymore. And I knew that I needed to do something because I wasn't the best mom I could be. I wasn't the best wife I could be. I wasn't the best teacher. I wasn't the best business owner. And not just about being the best, but the best that I can be. I knew I wasn't there. And so...
Such a good clarification, by the way. It's not about being the best. It's about being the best you could be. Yeah, so important.
And it's not even about, like, being better than somebody else. I always tell everybody, I'm not concerned about what other people do. I want to be better than I was yesterday. And that's all I want. Better than I was. If that means getting up 10 minutes earlier than I was yesterday, that's great. If it means not playing on my phone for, X amount of, whatever better than you can be yesterday is what you need to do. Well, my daughter was a power lifter. My oldest daughter is a power lifter. And I've always gone to her meets, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I love watching this. And so I decided, you know what, let me give it a try. The first time I, picked up a weight, and then the next time it went higher, I was like, oh, this is so addicting. I was like, I like this. And so here I am 3 years later, and I've competed in 4 or 5 meets, and I'm aiming to go to nationals next year. So,
wow.
Yeah. So awesome. It's just, it's really brought me so much confidence, and in just life, period. When you feel physically good, your mental is going to follow along with it.
Man, that's so interesting. So it's like, I think it's awesome. Okay. I think it's awesome to have, and I don't know if you'd consider it a hobby. I like to call them life side quests. You know, it's like not really key, but I think it's so interesting to have something that gives back so much to other aspects of your life. Like you're saying that like it's powerlifting, and some people would think, myself included, if I'm just kind of watching from the outside, I'm thinking, oh, it's weird. Cool. She does that too. But hearing you talk about it, like saying how much it affects other aspects of your life, it's like, oh man, like that's really interesting. And I think, I guess what I'm getting from this is like, you know, be good at whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Like commit to your hobbies. Like for me, music, right? That's my life side quest, right? That's my hobby. And when I write a good song, I feel confident. I feel happy. Or if me and my brothers, because you know we're in a band, we'll play a show or we'll do something and get a good response. Like, yeah, and like the next day, like my confidence kind of overflows into other aspects 100%, of life.
Yeah.
And then on the days when I suck, you know, that kind of overflows too.
Yeah.
So I think I love seeing kind of the whole big picture, getting to have conversations like this with you, because when you meet people and get their whole picture, I don't know, it's a more fulfilling life experience.
I mean,
and I'm really glad to hear it.
Yeah, that dopamine that you get from, you know, music or powerlifting, or I have a ranch and I have cows and sheep and chickens and dogs and
what? You know, okay. That's
yeah. So
sorry, you're just getting more and more interesting by the second. I'm just like, yeah. Dude,
yeah. So I mean, just going out with my animals, that gives me that dopamine. Going there and working out, it's my dopamine. You know. I work from home. I have a massive gym in my garage. Like I have pretty much anything you could ever want. And nice. So like I don't ever leave my house. So I built my little fortress around me.
So you're building this business. It's growing. It's developing. Side note, you have probably one of the most amazing craft rooms or work rooms I've ever seen.
Thank you.
It's fantastic. So like, where does the content creation come into all this? Like as a teacher, were you like on YouTube and creating content, or is this something that's kind of just associated with the business?
Yeah, I wasn't on YouTube as a teacher. I think I had one video because one summer I put together a teacher. I called it the Texas Teacher Meetup, and reached out to a bunch of the businesses or the people that I collaborated with on social media and was like, hey, you want to donate a gift card? You want to donate this? Da, 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 da. And so I got probably 50 or 60 people to contribute different things, and I just put it out on my social media. I was like, hey, we're going to meet in Galveston and go on a boat, and if you guys want to come, I'm going to give out a bunch of stuff and we can just all sit around and complain and talk and chat and do whatever. And literally that's the only video I have from like the teacher end of it. But in terms of Instagram, when I was teaching, I did start my Instagram when I was teaching, which is where the name Teach Over the Rainbow came from. Partly because, you know, back when I started my teachergram, I guess you could say, there was no reels. They didn't have reels. It was just, you know, static images and stuff like that. And so I had a pretty decent following from my teachergram that has stuck around and with me in my transition from teaching in the classroom to teaching and doing DIYs with crafts and stuff like that.
So then at what point did you start incorporating YouTube into your like regular output? Like you're specifically recording videos and making content specifically for YouTube?
That only started about a year ago is when I did my first tutorial, and I'm still not like regular on YouTube. I have, I don't know, maybe like six-ish or so tutorials and a part one of my craft tour. And a matter of fact, since I'm all dolled up, I'm gonna finish recording part two from the other room because I never do anything with myself. So I'm like, oh, I'll take advantage of, you know, being done up. So I don't have that many on YouTube, and it's just, I don't know how people do it. I mean, I have so many orders, and so I'm just like, where do the people find the time to record and, you know, post YouTube tutorials daily? And so it's still something that I'm trying to manage a little bit better, and I'm trying. So it's more so, when I'm making products, I'm recording the content as I'm making the products for my orders.
Smart. It's like a two birds with one stone.
Yeah, in terms of tutorials for YouTube, that is.
Yeah. Now, how much extra workload is it to record content for your Instagram?
Well, it used to feel like a second job, to be honest with you. And I used to feel like I needed to have these big, elaborate, transitions and all this kind of stuff. And I've noticed, and I don't understand this, and I know other content creators say the same thing. The ones that you spend the most time on tank. The ones that you literally spend 2 seconds on. All of the viral videos that I have on my Instagram, they're less than 6-7 seconds. And I spent no time on them. I'm like, do you not see this beautiful transition that I just did? But for somebody that's not a content creator, they're gonna be like, oh, whoop-de-doo, which I get it.
Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. Yeah, man, that is so funny. When I go through the Heat Press Nation reels and I see which ones are hitting and which ones are not, it frustrates me to no end.
Yeah, for sure.
Because even if I didn't make them, I know how much work went into each one, and I'm like, oh, you guys, if you only knew how much time we spent on this.
I know.
Yeah. Oh, it's a killer. It's a killer. Now, you have a really interesting, because a few moments ago you mentioned you have so many orders, and I love that, by the way. Anytime somebody has success, I am just behind it. Yes, you go get it. But you have a really interesting way of releasing your products. You do a launch and a restock.
Yeah.
Versus just constantly having, a store open.
Yeah. Can
you tell us a little bit about what kind of led you to that and how that's worked out for you?
Okay, so basically when I started out on Shopify, I had known some people that were on Etsy and some people that were on Shopify, and I'm that kind of person that hates to ask people for help. And so I'm going to do as much research and as much, searching on my own before I ask somebody, to the point where if I'm like, ooh, I wonder where that person got that label maker from, I'll watch the reel and screenshot it and then zoom it in to see the brand, and then I'll look it up on my own. I just don't like asking people for help. Yeah. It's a blessing and a curse, I think. So when I decided to go with Shopify over Etsy, I had mostly my lanyards on my website, and those would sell out. And I'm like, I would have people say, oh, can you make a custom one with this color? And I'm like, yeah. And so I was making custom stuff at first, but then I realized I can't keep up with customs because I already have all of these, things that I'm already making. And so I backed away from custom orders and decided to just do launch and restock. So basically what I do is if I have a product and I kind of make a prototype of it and I put it out on social media, and I'm like, let me throw this out there and see if it sticks, It's like throwing spaghetti against the wall. And if it's looks like it's going to do well, I'm like, okay, I have something here. And so if I'm getting a lot of engagement on a certain product that's new, I'll say, okay, this product is going to launch on X day. And all of my launches and restocks are always on Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So people always know, hey, if I know this is when it's going to be. And if it sells well and sells out within a couple of days or, whatever inventory I put on there, I'm like, okay, this is going to do well. And a lot of times people will go back to the post and say, oh, you're sold out. Are you going to restock? And that's how I know I need to bring that product back.
Yeah. Man, that's really smart because you're in total control of your production.
Right.
I love that because to me, I've tried a few different things, because some of my t-shirt designs, I designed them specifically so I could actually use vinyl. So I'd keep a stock of blank tees and I would cut to order, and it's kind of a drag.
It is.
It works in the sense of I didn't have to keep a million things already made in stock and risk some of them selling, some of them
Exactly.
not. So it saved me there. But I think where I was struggling was like, it's a drag to get home and have to cut one of this and one of this. No orders for 3 days, five different ones, you know, so it's just kind of a pain. So I really, really like this model that you have of kind of the launch and the restock. And have you noticed a difference, like when you switched from taking custom orders to just launch and restock? Have you noticed a difference in how it affected kind of not just your workflow, but how you like the speed, I guess?
Yeah, because I mean, to be honest with you, I'm gonna pick you up and just show you real quick. Do you see?
Oh yes.
Okay, so that's
Very cool.
That's 100 of those pencil holders, and yes, 100 is going to take me a very long time. But if I'm making 10, it almost takes just as long. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
because there's a process
sure.
I have to do when I'm making so many. I have to do this step, and like right now, I have glue drying on those, and I can't move on to something else until that is done. So. It's honestly, if I have it if I have a process, and I always put on my social media, I have a system. If there's a system, you can knock things out a lot faster, just as much as you're making 10 versus 100.
Yeah. Very cool. Yeah. And you know, it's funny. I think a lot of people don't understand that. For me, cause I've said it, like, I'd rather do a case of mugs than two.
Oh, for sure.
Like sublimating 2 mugs for me is probably one of the biggest pains in the butt ever.
Yeah.
And it's not like they take forever. It's just, you have to go. And then for me, I would kill for your craft room. I have to like pull my computer out,
Right.
my printer, get that set up, pull everything out of its storage or whatever, get that all lined up just to print 2.
Right.
And then put everything back away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd much rather do a bunch.
There's certain items that I always have in stock. It's more like the sublimation items that I can, that never go out of stock. I put my inventory at that so that it doesn't zero out. So like my clipboards and my tumblers and my mouse pads and those things that I can knock out quickly, those always stay in stock. And I get a steady flow of all those orders all the time. And then in between all that, if it's like a sublimation something, I'll come in the morning and knock out my sublimation stuff real quick and then get on to my launches and restocks.
Very cool. Now, because it's Heat Press Nation, right? I have to ask, at what point in your journey did you discover heat pressing kind of come into the mix? Because you do a lot of really cool handmade stuff. You mentioned you started off with kind of the lanyards. Where does heat pressing kind of come into the mix?
Once I started working from home, it was actually right before I decided to step away from teaching. One of the things was like, what can I do to expand my business? What can I do to ensure that I have enough income and orders coming in so that this can be, there's longevity to this. And so I did a lot of research and, I saw stuff about sublimation. And so I was like, you know what, let me get a sublimation printer. And I didn't want to do like a converted printer. I'm kind of like I jump in with both feet type of person. So I was like, looking up online, of course, like what can I do? What's the best printer in terms of sublimation for small businesses? And Sawgrass came up, and then I was trying to decide between the 500 and 1,000, and I'm glad I went with 1,000 because you can print larger sheets with it. And so I was like, let me just try this sublimation thing. And so I really didn't know much about it. And so I started basically off with tumblers, just like your basic 20-ounce tumblers. And that was a disaster. I was just, I was like, oh my gosh. I pride myself in when I try things. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but typically things come pretty easy for me. And I was like,
you understand how things work.
Yes. I was like so frustrated because it was like there's ghosting and this and that. And so I just watched YouTube over YouTube over YouTube. And then I watched your videos and I'm like, how are you doing that? Mine are not coming out like that. So it's honestly, sublimation is really great, but there's a huge learning curve to it. And when you watch
especially for the tumblers.
Yeah, and when you watch something on YouTube and you're like, I'm doing exactly that, and it doesn't do what I want it to do.
Yeah, what's funny is you pretty much picked like the AP class to get started with.
Oh, yeah.
You started kindergarten in AP because tumblers to me are one of the hardest things to get consistently every time. And of course, with experience, of course, you nail it after a while. Yeah. You figure out the tiny little nuances of how you tape it, your pressure, how to rotate, blah, 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 blah. So, it's funny because we hold 2 weekly classes, sublimation classes, very entry level. And I do flat stuff. I do coasters. Coasters, it's like impossible to fail.
Yeah.
On like a little coaster or a flat product. Yeah. It's that's why I'm sorry. I just think it's funny. You started with like the hardest possible thing.
I even told my husband, I was like, I don't know if I made the right decision here. I've invested all this money into this, sublimation printer, and like, these suck. I can't sell this. Especially because I'm like so OCD about stuff. Like if something doesn't look perfect, I'm not sending it out to my customers because I want quality, stuff. So I started out with the tumblers and moved on to the easier mouse pads and coasters and all the other easy stuff. So yeah.
But now just so everybody knows, you eventually got the tumblers.
Oh yeah, right? For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. You actually have, I believe, a video on it.
On YouTube.
Yeah, or I've seen a video of you showing off how you do your tumblers.
Probably on my Instagram. I don't have one on my YouTube yet.
Okay, I consume so much heat press content.
Oh yeah,
that I'm like, wait, was that? Yeah, that's her. I saw that. I know I seen her do it at some point.
I've had people ask me so many times about doing a tutorial for sublimation tumblers because they're like, you don't see your seams, your colors are so bright, they want to know all the things. And I'm like, but the thing is like, I can do a tutorial, but it's literally just practice. I probably wasted 2 cases of tumblers before I'm like, okay, this is something I could sell.
Yeah. So at Heat Press Nation, our tumbler attachment for the mug press, it launched, I want to say summer 2020 or summer 2021-ish. I forget. It's been a while. But I was the R&D at the time. That wasn't my official title. They were just like, hey, we need somebody to test this crap out. Who do we got? And I was like,
yeah.
So yeah, and this was before we had, it was one of the earlier versions of the tumbler press. Not a lot of people had tumbler presses. Everybody was doing like shrink wraps or oven wraps. And so, I must have gone through about 1 or 2 cases of just tumbler after tumbler of different settings and how many rotations and all that stuff. Yeah, so it's...
See, I have a tumbler press.
It's wild, yeah.
I have a tumbler press and I use the oven. So I have both. And people are like, oh, what's your temperature? What's your time? But it's different for every... That's the thing. You can kind of give a roundabout thing, but my oven and somebody else's oven is going to be something different. One person's press is going to be different from another person's press. So it's literally, there's such a learning curve to it. Once you get it down, you're good. Like, you're golden. Yeah. You can rock and roll. You can knock out 50 tumblers in a day if you need to. But it's just finding that right, the right time, temp, and pressure for it, and what works for you.
Yeah. So if anybody's watching this, we're not trying to discourage you
from
trying out tumblers. Tumblers are fantastic. Yeah. I think we're just kind of giving the horror stories. Thankfully, there's a lot more content out now, like available for people to watch and learn. But yes, you will have to practice. You won't be going through 2 cases. No. I don't think anyone.
This is what, 3 years ago 2.5 years ago when I started sublimation tumblers, and
you were probably one of our first tumbler customers, tumbler press customers.
I want to say the Sawgrass 1000 had just come out, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, that's about right. So the Sawgrass 1000, it came out, it launched at a trade show right before COVID hit. Mm-hmm. Something like that.
Yeah.
Either the like 2 months before COVID hit, or like the the year before, but yeah, it was right around.
And the thing is, like
2019, 2020.
The thing is, like, if you're going to invest in sublimation, not all substrates are created equal. Not all printers are created equal. Not all paper is created equal. Not all ink is created equal. So if you're going to invest in sublimation, which is a great tool for growing your business because there's so much you can do with it. Like currently now, I just got a laser cutter and engraver, and I'm learning how to sublimate on acrylic. And so when you want to grow your business with sublimation, the possibilities are endless. Really, it is.
Yeah. No, that is super awesome. And yeah, I hope nobody's discouraged. I think what we do and what I do here is I really try to paint a realistic picture of what the business looks like. Because one thing at Heat Press Nation we don't like doing is like, you buy this printer and it'll solve all your problems. It'll make all your dreams come true. And it's like, yeah, in theory, your dreams will all come true if you put in the hard work with this printer and, and build your business. But
I also do have to say that when it comes to trying something new, and this probably has something to do with my faulty, slow start with sublimation tumblers, I'm pedal to the floor when it comes to something new. Like I'm just, I got this. I want to jump right in, and without being like, okay, slow down. Like, make sure I'm doing it right. Make sure. So that, to be honest with you, I know that I'm a pedal to the floor kind of person, and so that probably has something to do with it too. I need to be totally transparent. I'm a 100 miles an hour type of person, so that probably has something to do with it. If I wasn't so impatient, that probably wouldn't have been that bad.
All right, so I have a question. What are some of the challenges that you've been facing a little bit more recently with your business or with just kind of managing everything? Just because, you have kids, you're married, you have the animals, you have the business, you have the channel. Like, what are some challenges that you've been kind of facing with all that lately?
One of the things that I've struggled with probably since the beginning of the year is I've always been the kind of person that am mentally strong, physically strong. I can't let things bother me. I'm just, 100 miles an hour, go, 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 go. And I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm 46 years old, and I needed to learn to take better care of my body, my brain, all of that. And so since the beginning of the year, I have, normally my slow time is January through March, April, and then teacher appreciation comes and things pick up. But it's been no slow season for me for over a year. Mm-hmm. And so I've just been go, 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 go. And I'm the kind of person where, when you have so many orders, that ding that you get from Shopify, it kind of almost gets like addicting to hear. But it's like an unhealthy addiction. Because I do wear all the hats. I'm the content creator, I'm the maker, I'm the HR, I'm the everything, around here. And I'm very high expectations for myself, but I had to slowly realize that the expectations that I have for myself and my business, those are not realistic when you are one person. And so I noticed that towards the beginning of the year, I started getting like kind of where I'm like, oh my gosh, what's happening? I'm so stressed. I'm crying. And I feel like this impending doom, like something bad is going to happen. And I just kept, this feeling kept coming over me. And my best friend, who was also in the military, is a nurse. She's like, I think that's anxiety. And I'm like, that's hokey pokey. I don't believe in all that stuff. I just don't. I feel like in my head, I feel like people that are like, oh, I have anxiety and I have panic attacks. I'm just like, that's just in your head. It's not in your head. Okay. It's not. Okay. And I finally got to the point where one night I was laying in my bed and my husband was sleeping, and I just was like, I got to take the cows to the vet. I have to do this. I have to do that. And like all these things that were happening at one time were going, my brain was just going, and I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And I was going to wake up my husband and say, hey, like something's wrong. And I just like, don't wake him up. And I finally woke him up. And just as I was tapping, it's like my brain was like, whoa. And I was like, oh my God, I can't breathe. I can't talk. I was just crying. And I'm like, I woke up the next day and I told my friend, and I was like, okay, maybe it is panic and anxiety,
Yeah.
And so I literally had to tell myself, it's okay if you're not okay. It's okay to be stressed. It's okay to slow the hell down because I've just been on 100 for over a year, and it's just did a number on me. And that's why I just made a post the other day on social media where I was in my caption, I explained your physical and mental health, if you do not take care of it, will age you so quickly. And when I stepped away from teaching, I was so stressed with everything that teachers were, have to deal with. I could feel it in my face. I could feel it in my body. I could feel it. I just felt run down and old. And then I got, myself into powerlifting, and I was managing my stress. And then I allowed that to kind of come back, but not as in teaching, but with my own business. I had unrealistic expectations. And so I had to set more realistic expectations for myself, allow myself to not skip going to the gym, because that literally is like medicine for me. I had to not, when it's time to stop, go out and pet the cows and go out and feed the sheep and find a way to refuel myself, because I was just letting business, and it's so easy when you work from home and you're like, oh my God, it's 7:00 and I haven't eaten and I haven't worked out and I haven't cooked dinner. And, it's just when it's in your house and when you work from home, it's so easy to get lost in work. And so I had to really learn to just set business hours, not answer DMs after a certain time, not get on my phone, when it comes to business, so that I could come back to a homeostasis where I'm just more balanced.
Yeah. So in finding that balance, I'm sure that took some work.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not just like a switch that you can flip over.
Oh no, I was went to a counselor, and because like I said, I am 100 miles an hour. I don't know how to chill. I have a ranch. I have, my business. I have powerlifting. I like to keep my house clean. I have zero chill. When people are like, how do you do it all? I'm like, I don't know. Don't ask. I can't. It's not normal. Don't aspire to be like me. This is not normal. Yeah. Like I'm well aware that my expectations, they're not normal. And so I really had to talk to a counselor, and I really had to, learn how to manage my stress and what to do when I'm getting that panicking feeling. And I mean, this has been a 6-7 month process, 8-month process that I'm learning how to manage my stress. And so now things are much more calm for me. I'm like, oh, it's 6:00. Let me go work out. So I could go to bed by 8:00.
Yeah. So would you agree that your quality of life has just improved since actively managing your stress?
Absolutely. I feel it. Matter of fact, when I was talking to my counselor the other day, I was like, she's like, how's everything going? And I'm like, it's really good. And I said, I don't want to be in a panic. And I said, I'm sitting here telling you how good things are feeling right now. And what is in my head is the last time I was standing at my computer, and I guess that you would call it an anxiety panic attack. I said, I don't want to feel like that anymore. I don't want to feel out of control. I want to feel in control. And my panic that I was feeling was because I was wanting control, but I really wasn't in control of anything. It was me thinking that I was in control of everything that goes on around me when I was really not in control of anything. And now I'm more calm and everything is so much better.
Man, it makes me so happy to hear. For me, a few weeks ago, for the podcast, a few episodes ago, we had a guest, Ruben Oriel, on the T-shirt Buddy, and that's one of his things. His big missions is, yes, T-shirts, but yes, also mental health especially for creatives and entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And so we just got to talking about it, and it's like it's so crazy because, you know, if your mental health is suffering, it's only a matter of time before everything else goes.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So if you think you're doing your business a favor by just ultra committing and throwing everything you have out there, it's not. Because once it breaks down, then your business is gone, and then your marriage or kid or whatever, all that other stuff kind of goes with it.
Yeah, and the funny thing is like before I realized that I was having, I guess, panic attacks, I was having these heart palpitations. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? And I was a medic when I was in the Army, so I don't really get into that panic mode when there's something going wrong. Mm-hmm. And so I went to the doctor and I was like, yeah. And they're like, they put a heart monitor on me. They're like, no, everything's fine. I'm like, it's not. I can feel it. And they're like, it's probably stress and anxiety. I'm like, no, it's not. And it is.
No, I'm dying. You hear me?
I honestly thought like something was wrong with me. And I finally had to accept the fact that my stress and anxiety is causing physical ailments to my body. And the other thing that I noticed is that, especially with creative people and artists and stuff like that, is when you are not feeling mentally well, whether you recognize it or not, you're not going to be able to be creative. You're not going to be able to be productive. And those two things right there are going to snowball into making you feel worse. And so it's going to be a cycle where you're feeling bad, so you're not productive and you're not creative, and you're not creative and you're not productive, so it's going to make you feel bad, and it's just going to go on and on and on. And I noticed one of the things that I'm not doing it as much anymore is when I was getting a lot of orders and I had a lot to do, I'd start organizing paint and going through what has nothing to do with being productive. Why am I doing that? But that's what I do to cope when I'm stressed. Then that pulls me away from my productivity, which makes me be even more stressed, which again is a little cycle. So I noticed that I'm like, there's dishes in the sink. There's stuff on the floor. It's just going to have to be there, and I'm just going to have to deal with it. That's how I know when I'm like getting stuff done faster, that things are really kind of ironing out for me.
Man, I hope that anybody listening to this really takes it to heart. And I guess if I could make a suggestion, if you're hearing this and you're identifying with this and you're saying, oh, I feel kind of like how she did, talk to somebody, get some help. It's infinitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure. You know, especially like being a soldier and being an athlete, you're always taught to be tough, suck it up, I'm not of the younger generation. I'm older. I'm knocking on 50, so we're taught to like suck it up. It's in your head. You need to just, forget about it, keep pushing out. And that just does not work sometimes. Some people it might work, but for me, I'm a very strong person mentally and physically. And I just needed some guidance, and I needed some assistance to get myself back on track. And I am forever grateful. And thankfully I see a counselor from the Veterans Affairs because I'm a veteran, and she's amazing. She's a spitfire. She's got a potty mouth just like me, and I can connect with her. And I'm just saying, like, if you are feeling overwhelmed or overstressed, don't be embarrassed. Don't ignore it. Don't try to say that it's hokey pokey like I did for months. Because now I'm sitting back and I'm looking at myself and I'm like, oh my God, I don't ever want to feel like that again. Is this what is other people calm like this? I didn't know that was existed.
Yeah, I remember when I didn't have my first panic attack until I was like 24. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I had never really dealt with anything like it. my older brother had. And I thought that was just like his thing. You know, like, oh, that's his thing. My thing is that I'm totally fine. And so then when it happened, I was just in my room, just losing. It felt like I was losing my mind for like an hour, and I had no idea. Do I call 911? My dad's a pastor. Like, well, does he has to? Am I demon possessed? No, I'm not demon possessed. So finally, after about an hour of and it was just the weirdest. I know everybody experiences it differently. Of just like sitting and crying and laughing at crying and then crying at laughing and then just basically like what I thought was a crazy person. I finally just broke down and called my brother, and he's like, "Is this happening? This happening? Well, congrats. Are you still alive?" And I was like, "Yes." He goes, "Cool. You made it through your first panic attack. Here's what you're gonna do next time." And just having those small tools that he gave me to help just deal and cope and make sure I didn't like jump off a bridge or anything was fantastic. Literally life changing. Yeah,
when I first started with counseling, my counselor would say, "Okay, set your business hours," and I'm like, "I got bills to pay, girl." It's like, yeah. And now I'm like, "Okay, 5:00, turn the lights off, walk out."
Yes, especially I'm sure it's easier now that you've seen the effects and the good byproducts of sticking to that. I'm sure now it makes it a little bit easier.
Yes, 100%. It was just like there were some days where I just walked around and I just felt this feeling of impending doom. I just feel like, oh my God, my house is going to catch on fire and somebody's going to die. I don't know what it was. It was just this feeling of impending doom. And I just, like, there was a gray cloud over me all the time. And I couldn't explain it. And I was not a happy person. And now I'm just like, I'm so glad that I decided to, not be that hard-headed, soldier, athlete, and allow myself to be a little bit weak, because it's okay when you are. But it's made me a much better wife, a better mom, a better business owner, a better animal mom.
Man, I love it. Honestly, I am so grateful to you for being transparent and vulnerable with us here on the podcast. I know we kind of started off just like telling your story, talking about business, but I think this is a really, really great, and I don't want to say valuable in the sense of like money. Yeah. I feel filthy saying that, but valuable in the sense of I think there's people listening and watching who are actually going to be positively impacted by this. I hope and I pray that there's somebody out there who's watching this that's going to go get help. They're going to go talk to somebody. I'm really grateful to you for coming by, for sharing your story. I know we've gone a little bit longer than we typically do for the podcast, which is okay. I know your time is very valuable. So I just really sincerely want to say thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. Now, before we let you go though, the people have to know where they can find you. Oh, okay. Well, my website is www.teachovertherainbow.com. All of my social medias are Teach Over the Rainbow. If you go to my website, you can go to teachovertherainbow.com, and all of my social media links are there. You can find all of them there: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm trying to think of what else there is. I do have an X. I'm not sure. I refuse to call it that. I don't know. It's just weird. It's so weird calling it that. So, and then Threads. I also have a Threads, but I really haven't dabbled in that much. But all my social media links are there. And you can also shop on my website at teachovertherainbow.com. You just click the little link over there. It says Shop Teach Over the Rainbow. And then I have a launch and restock calendar that's also on the landing page of my website. What I've started to do is, so that I'm not so stressed, I started putting, for my launch and restocks, I started putting to be announced. And then once my current launch or restock is about to go out the door, then I'll put the new date for the next one, and they just kind of fall in line after that. So if you're looking to see what's coming up on my launches and restocks, you can click that launch and restock calendar to see what's coming up next. Awesome. Man, Brooke, again, sincerely, thank you so much for sharing your time, sharing your story, sharing your inspiration. Is there anything you want to leave the people with? Any parting words?
All I have
parting
to say
advice?
is that, owning your own business is great. And if you're looking on social media and you're seeing, everybody's curated, perfect, perfect hair, perfect makeup, that's not how it is. That's why I come on my social media and sometimes I look like a hot mess because when I used to tell my kids when I was a teacher, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit. Sometimes I look like this and sometimes I look like a hot mess, and that's just life. And if anybody tells you that everything is smooth sailing, they're not being transparent with you. So just
probably trying to tell you
be
something.
better than you were yesterday and dream big, set goals, and take action, and you're going to be good.
Man, those are some amazing gold nuggets to leave our listeners and viewers with. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Customizing Culture podcast by Heat Press Nation. I'm your host, Jared Barbosa. And again, big shout out and thank you to our special guest today, Brooke Carnline. Brooke, thanks again.
Thank you.